It's time now for the K.C. Ingram Show on WSTU. The opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not necessarily those of WSTU. WSTU does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU. It's time to call in with your questions and comments at 220-9788, 220-WSTU. And now, here's K.C. Ingram.
Well, good morning and welcome back. Another beautiful Wednesday here in Stewart on the Treasure Coast. And, we're following up from Mark Breckbill, who talks a lot about different financial areas here in the country and what affects us here in Stewart. And today with me in the studio, I'm excited to have Tim Mullen, who is with Commercial Mortgage. And he's going to be talking a little bit about, what do you do in a changing economy, especially one that's retreating, especially if you are a business owner? You can run into a lot of different difficulties and you need help getting out of that. But before we go into that, Tim, it's good to have you in the studio. I want to shout out to one of my sponsors, and that is Scott Watson, Indiantown Marina. It's one of South Florida's best boat storage facilities. They're located inland on the Okeechobee Waterway, and that's really what's so special about Indiantown Marina. They're inland a little ways, so super safe storage, especially during hurricane season. And the other thing is they do all kinds of service and repair out there. So they have a do-it-yourself or a full-service boatyard offering the best of both worlds. You can work on electrical, mechanical, prop and shaft work, bottom painting, complete boat painting, boat sitting, anything you need. So if you need some help out there with your boat, needs storage, looking for hurricane storage, and we're getting towards the end of the season, but it doesn't end until end of November. So keep that in mind. Give them a call, 772-631-3272. Again, that's Indiantown Marina. Give them a jingle at 772-631-3272. So now, Tim, it's good to have you in the studio here today. And
thanks for having me on, K.C. It's a privilege.
It's my pleasure. And there's so many things happening right now with the economy. It just feels like everybody's unsure what's going to happen next. And with COVID, that has impacted really every facet of our society, but in particular retail. I was excited to have you come in and talk a little bit about what business owners could be going through, what may be coming up, and what do they do? So just to tell you a little bit about Tim Mullen here, he's the owner of Commercial Mortgage, which has been around since 1988. Tim focuses on challenging corporate foreclosures, debt restructures, equity, and new debt solutions. These issues are often not easy to see or understand when you run a business and are faced with multifaceted debt challenges that include legal action on various fronts. And that's where Commercial Mortgage and Tim Mullen come in. All his clients are confidential. However, they include some of the largest developers and hotel operators in Florida and across the nation. And Tim's been providing debt restructuring services since 1988. And keep in mind, Tim never charges a front fee or deposit, and he only gets paid if he successfully provides you a debt workout. So, Tim, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, you said quite a bit there. That has a lot to do with my resume. I started in 88 with Commercial Mortgage with a partnership that did residential and commercial. My forte is commercial, new debt and debt restructuring. I disbanded that in 2003 and became the sole proprietor of the LLC. And that is our forte, or my forte. New debt, it's complicated for, business owners to create new opportunities and get new business in. But when it gets tough, like what's coming or what has happened in years past, this is very, very difficult for any business owner or operator to run his business and fight his way through a retreating economy. And the real scary version here is that we don't know how big this is. Many of our experts, including people like Jeremy Siegel, a long-term friend of mine, going back to when I was in college, is giving us a snapshot of how difficult this is going to be.
Tim, you're absolutely right. If I can break in with just a moment. Jeremy Siegel, for those of you who don't know, he's a Wharton finance professor, and he's an expert. You'll see him oftentimes. For example, he was just on CNBC this last Sunday, and he's always commenting on the economy and finance. And Jeremy said, we're headed for some trouble ahead. Trading Nation, he told us on Trading Nation last Friday, inflation in general is going to be a much bigger problem than the Fed believes. Siegel warns there are serious risks tied to rising prices and said there's going to be pressure on the Fed to accelerate its taper process. He does not believe that the market is prepared for an accelerated taper. So this is one of the things that could be a catalyst to the economy changing pretty rapidly.
Very rapidly. When Jeremy Siegel puts it that politely, all right, trust me, this is a freight train accident on its way. I don't mean to scare people, but commercial mortgage can fix things. Is it a perfect world? No, it's not. I do not charge money up front. If I look at the transaction, I look at your business, and we think we can get you through it. That's we, meaning me, my legal team, our accountants, our lawyers, our advisors. Then I'll take you on, and it costs nothing unless I get it done. And when I get it done, then I ask to be paid. Paid, I get a point generally on work debt workouts. However, I can bring in new equity. I can do restructuring. I can even bring in corporate restructuring as the last transaction I was just in. And that's a topic for later on in the show today.
When we're talking about debt restructuring, tell me exactly what that is and why someone would look to debt restructure.
Okay, you own a small business, you own a mid-cap business, all right? The economy retreats, you don't have enough money to pay the bills, you're defaulted on your mortgage, you're defaulted on your real estate taxes, everything is starting to collapse. Where do you go? You don't run down to your bank, they just throw up their hands and say, gee, I don't know what to do. Bummer, you know? You come to me, and then I create a restructuring model that navigates you through this so that you come out with possibly new equity. We can provide high net worth individuals that will invest in your business. Sometimes we take, like the last transaction I was in, we took an equity position. There was no money to distribute. We had to rebuild the business model. In a case of a very large resort hotel, we created a cosigner for a debt refinance, and it works spectacular. And that's an interesting thing to do. So creative solutions on how to navigate through these things, whether it be, debt restructuring. We might even recommend bankruptcy, and that's a legitimate legal way to navigate through difficult times. It's not illegal to file bankruptcy, and you should never, ever feel badly about it.
And Tim, one thing that you do is, in essence, people want to protect their family, their self, their retirements. You want to protect your business, of course, but at the end of the day, the very core of what means most to you is your personal family and again, your retirement. So tell us a little bit about that. I know you've had some examples where maybe somebody had a personal guarantee on loans and
that's
for
an
their
interesting
business.
Comment, Casey. Let me respond to something you just said. Everybody's heard this saying, oh, it's not personal, it's business. It's about as personal as it gets when you get sued and they're talking about taking your business away from you. And I take it personally. So this is not simple. This gets tough. Anybody that knows me on this broadcast will tell you, you do not want to get into the arena with me. I am a tough player. Okay, so what was the question again? Some of the examples?
Personal guarantees. Some
Okay,
folks, they have their business and they have a personal
recent
guarantee.
Story about a very high profile group. Now, by the way, when you do business with me, I am like your doctor and your lawyer all wrapped up in a nice suit. All right. We never speak of your business specifically. We never use your name. This is in strictest of confidence. So having said that, I'm going to talk about a transaction. And if my friends are listening to this, they may be, it's going to bring a smile to their face. Back in 2008, we had a very sophisticated foreclosure problem on a large land deal that had a condo component to it. Pre-sales fell out like they did all over the country, and we had no way to pay the bills, the interest. And the biggest problem was the loan matured. That is one of the biggest problems. When the loan comes due, you don't have a loan anymore. All right. So I stepped in on behalf of the guys. I did the new debt, which is kind of interesting. It was about $40 million. And I renegotiated the debt, got an extension on the loan, tapped some of the deposits legally that were remaining, and got the bank to advance about $1.2 million to finish the project. These were 28 condo units on the waterfront. But in the conjunction with that, the forecast of a retreating economy in 2008, I went to the lenders and got them to release 4 very, very important men's personal guarantee on $40 million.
Wow.
And they were shocked.
Personal guarantee. I mean, that is usually
right.
the backup for the banks. Is you got a
How
personal
and why
guarantee.
did we do that?
Right.
We were deeply concerned from both the lender side and the personal side that this might not work. It was a Hail Mary. And any one of these men get backed into a corner and file bankruptcy, it complicates the workout and the existing mortgage. The bank agreed with me, their attorneys agreed with me, and I was able to get their families off the hook on $40 million. The project did not survive. It collapsed, but we had a shot and we got them out of trouble.
Folks, again, I'm speaking with Tim Mullen of Commercial Mortgage, LLC. If you have a question for Tim, you can call the studio at 772-220-9788. Again, that's 772-220-WSTU. And of course, I'm also watching the Facebook live feed for comments and questions as well if you're joining us and watching us instead of just listening to us. Tim, I want to go over some of the things that you've done here through your career. And one of them that you were telling me about was a lake out in California.
That's a very interesting transaction, which kind of tells a little broader picture of who I am and what I do.
I think it tells where you look for unique circumstances where a bank is not going to look for these things to help you get refinanced. You need somebody like you to come in and say, where is an asset? How can I help you get out of this trouble?
What will work and what won't? It's not a perfect world. I can't answer that question, but I know where to go and how to navigate. Let me tell you about the lake story, which is a little heartwarming. I got a call from Union Planters Bank in San Diego going back 25 years ago. And they had a client who had bought a piece of property on a mountainside that had this enormous lake on it. The guy had owned it for decades, and he died, Pop died, and the family members owned it, but couldn't afford to pay the real estate taxes. They were not real estate developers. They were just working stiffs and really nice ones. So they went to their bank. They had no income, and they had to pay these taxes. So, how do you, what do you become a real estate developer? Do you give half of it away to get some guy to come in and build houses on a lake? Their banker called me, and I went to him, and we looked at the transaction. And then I spoke to the family. And one of the things that they told me is that Pop took him out, rode him out in the middle of this lake and went fishing. He was a working stiff too. He just bought this property at a time when it was not as valuable as it was today. When I looked at the transaction, there was no exit for these people. I couldn't sell the property. The will said, don't ever sell the lake, kids. Okay. So, all right. So what do? I went to the city of San Diego and sold the water rights to pump fresh water out of that lake. We got them $10 million in front cash, and their real estate taxes were paid permanently.
Wow.
All right.
Wow.
So when I saw a troubled asset, I didn't think, well, where are we going to go get the money? And am I going to borrow it from somebody that's going to try to steal it from? They can't pay it back. They're just working stiffs,
Right.
So I created a long-term annuity for them. All right. The family did hire a legal team. They didn't use mine, but I was the negotiator for the water rights to pump that lake, and it was a magnificent transaction. That family now lives very comfortably. All right, and they were just caught. They didn't know what to do.
They had this asset they didn't realize they even had, and we all know what a scarcity fresh water is, especially out west. And this is 25 years ago, before people were even talking about that. But
The city of San Diego looked right at me and said, we're talking about creating a $1 billion desalination plant. That was 25 years ago.
Wow.
You know what that plant would be worth today, even if you could build it.
Right.
So here's this reservoir that they could, and that was an option. They didn't even start pumping water, as far as I remember. That was just an option they had to pay to get that reservoir, and it took that family out of harm's way. All right. I'm not here to say that I can do that for everyone, but maybe that solution, when you're sitting in a rowboat, all right, and it looks like it's sinking, it's not as obvious as a fresh set of eyes.
That's right. And again, Tim, where all do you work? Obviously, we just talked about California. You're here in South Florida. Do you concentrate just in South Florida?
No, I'm a national company. I've worked in New York, Los Angeles. One of my dearest friends and longtime partner in business at LSB General Contracting, Livius Bogdan, was in the top 4 multifamily developers nationally. We've done projects in South Florida, Staten Island, New York, LA. It's where the business is. Business is where we go.
So, folks, if you know anybody out there that, especially with COVID that just happened, and now the economy, we don't know what's going to happen. And we're talking about the inflation really spiking that could negatively impact businesses. Retail's already struggling because of COVID. You may have friends that are elsewhere that you're looking for somebody to help restructure their debt. You don't want them to lose their business and result, as well as losing their home and stuff. So what's it hurt? You can give Tim Mullen a call. It's a free consultation. He's not going to charge you anything, and he won't charge you unless you actually are able to restructure their debt for them.
I won't take the deal if there's nothing I can help you with.
You don't lead people on. If you can't help, you
No.
say, I can't help you.
And
I'm
I
very
don't need
sorry.
your front money. I've come to a place in life where we don't need to hustle somebody for a deposit or a retainer.
And I think that's something that I want to make clear here, that so many people, when you go to refinance or you're looking for help with debt, time and time again, they take front money that's not refundable.
Oh, we've seen that, and those are scoundrels. I'm unfortunately, I know some of them. All right, but that doesn't mean that a front money deposit is the wrong thing to do. It's just not me. All right, I just have no interest in it. Some of these projects get so sophisticated, and from an initial interview, and you might say, "Wow, there might be an opportunity." And the further you get into it, the more you'll learn about the project. I was involved for the last decade in a marina project that was unbelievable.
I wanted to talk about that because you had mentioned, and folks, before we get into that, Tim, how can people reach you?
Oh, I have a cell phone in my hand. The best way to reach me, I've had it for over 20 years, 561-310-5295. I had a friend of mine from 25 years ago in New York call me, and he said, your cell phone number's the same. I said, why would I change it? I like it. So
561-310-5295. And I know you have a website as well, commercialmortgagellc.com, commercialmortgagellc.com. Now, Tim, the marina here, this is a really interesting story. I understand that you turned it down 3 times when they first came to you.
I did. I was working in Boca and Fort Lauderdale, which is my home plate. It has been for the better part of 40 years. I got a call from a guy that was on the board of directors of the local Martin County Marina. And if for all of you listening, knowing me, you're saying, how the hell did that guy get into that deal? Well, you were about to hear the story, all right? So I got this call from the board of directors from Martin County Marina. And I said, look, guys, you got sophisticated problems I can't fix. All right. They had sold half of the marina and didn't pay the mortgage off.
Wow. I don't know how that happened. So the bank had a mortgage and didn't even know it.
I talked to him about it, California. I said, I don't know how this works. I can't fix that kind of problem. All right. That's fraud. All right. And I can't fix fraud. So I said, they called around South Florida, and SunTrust Bank, I had friends, and Mercantile Bank, I had friends there. And they were asking, who to help them refinance this property because there was some shenanigans going on. And each time they would say, the loan officer would say, hold on, I don't do this kind of thing. Let me get you this guy's name. And it turned out it was me. Lucky me. So I finally agreed to meet with them. And I told them, look, you have a problem here that is a debt problem, but you got bigger problems than this. You have a cultural problem with the marina. The business model is not good. The deferred maintenance. They had $130,000 of fines for junk and trash in the property. So I turned them down. I turned them down until they called me and offered me not only to pay me a very small fee, by the way, because they didn't have any money. That was not my criteria, but they offered me an ownership position. Well, I'm a boat guy. I don't bungee jump off buildings. I'm not much of a golfer. All right, so I'm a boat guy. I got into the transaction. The value of the property was placed at $2.6 million. We retooled the debt with some friends of mine. Jeff Lick, I hope you're listening to this. And I stepped in and helped management and the operations rebuild the model, rebuild the whole business. We recently sold that asset. Now, by the way, it was on the courthouse steps twice, 24 hours from being sold off at a courthouse auction. Twice that happened. I pulled it backwards off the courthouse steps. And we sold that asset in January this year for $9 million.
So, folks, there's always more than one way to skin a cat, as I like to say, coming from the Midwest, that good old saying. But, don't be frightened because things aren't looking up. You need to talk to somebody else. A fresh set of eyes might be just the thing you need. I mean, to bring something up off the courthouse steps within 24 hours of a sale is a really big deal. Not once, but twice.
So we were in that fight at the courthouse steps 24 hours before an auction sale, and we were able to stay that off, take the company through bankruptcy, and emerge out the other side as a viable asset at $9 million sale.
And I was going to say, in a decade, from 2.6 million value to 9 million, that's a
even
big
in a
deal.
difficult marketplace. I mean, the marketplace hasn't been all roses in the last decade. It didn't even start cleaning and picking up until 12, 13, and 14. So we were able to navigate this company and the asset that has done very well.
Again, we're speaking with Tim Mullen of Commercial Mortgage. Tim, it sounds like there's always, as I just said, more than one way to skin a cat, but you're not there just to provide more financing. It's a unique solution for each instance, and that's what's so important to really point out here. You don't know what that solution is going to be until you speak with somebody and find out what their assets are, what their issues are, what's causing the debt problem. So
my first couple of questions with an interview is that, what do you want to do? Are you tired? Are you beat up? You want to go home? All right. Or do you want to rescue the asset and then come up with a plan? We may have to bring in some friends of mine that are high net worth individuals and create equity by selling part of the company. All right. Well, maybe that's the answer. I can tell you I've seen some difficult transactions with people that actually have money. We'll talk about one that I did down in Grand Cayman a long time ago, which is really kind of funny. But this marina was a very difficult transaction. But this is right up my alley. This is what I do. I go in and rebuild the business. All right. Instead of just doing a loan. I can do the loan too. All right. I mean, that's not off the table.
What about somebody that's already in bankruptcy, maybe personally already, and then they're about ready to lose their business? They need to get it refinanced.
Ooh, that's where I like to have fun. I know right where to go with that. Don't be afraid of bankruptcy. It is not a parking lot for your problems. However, it can be a very, very good exit. All right, which we have used before recently. That's no secret up here. But bankruptcy, Abraham Lincoln filed bankruptcy. Henry Ford did 3 times. You're keeping good company. All right. It is a law of our land that is legitimate and should not be shameful. I'm happy to do it.
And you've recently, I think, had a customer that was kind of in that situation with a Home Depot
Home
type of
Depot
thing.
supply. A guy had gotten in horror. It was one of my partners in the marina. Had gotten into horrible financial trouble with a $2 million personal guarantee on a business that collapsed in '08. He inherited a wonderful asset from his mother, yet the asset was about to get looted from some scoundrels that he was involved with in this hedge fund that turned out to be a bunch of bad guys, really bad guys. And I stepped in, I retooled the asset, moved it into an isolated LLC, and then I took him and his wife into a bankruptcy, all right, in separate chapters, one chapter 7, one chapter 13, protected their assets, and he got to keep the inheritance, all right, and lives comfortably on the inheritance of this. I got him a $3.5 million equity loan to pay the inheritance tax, put some money in his pocket, bankrupted all these bad business debts, and walked away living comfortably at age 67.
So again, folks, there's a lot of different ways to skin that cat. And if you have any issues, you have a debt problem that you're trying to overcome and figure out how to get out of, Tim Mullen, give them a call, 561-310-5295. It won't cost you a thing. You're not going to take them on as a client if you cannot help them. You're very upfront about that, because why waste their time or yours?
K.C., I don't take 20 clients. That's foolhardy. What we do is a full contact sport. All right. Now, the easy stuff is you need me to redo the debt. Okay, we work with lenders. But when we need to fuse in new equity, we need to create a new model. One of the things we're very let's say excited. And I don't want to use that term when somebody's struggling out there. But there's some new opportunities in the retail sector where everybody's just nervous that retail has changed. The internet's, made the small business go away. These guys that own these strip malls out there are looking for ways to repurpose them. And we think that we can really help there. That repurposing of those assets that once were top performers. I mean, I've made a handsome living refinancing and financing new strip malls all over Florida, but now it's time to repurpose those assets, and we're looking at regional planning people and seeing how we can redesign and reallocate those. They're wonderful assets. They just need to be thought of in a contemporary way instead of just, trying to rent space at $15 a foot. It doesn't work anymore. It's not the way it works.
And Brent Wallenberg, I appreciate you tuning in. He said, don't borrow money, save up and then buy. And I agree for a personal strategy, but when you're a business, that's just not how it works. I mean, these businesses in 08, 09, now with COVID, with inflation, they're caught flat-footed. You're doing business one day, everything's fine, and you need to make loans, you need to extend credit, and then all of a sudden it just goes away so quickly you didn't see it coming. It's impossible to not grow your business without having lines of credit. So that's where
they did save their money. And that was the emotional part that I had the conversation with this high profile developer. He did have his family's money in it. His estate was in it. And what happened was when the economy retreated and they lost the market value, he had nowhere to run. But it was worse than that. His assets, his personal home was threatened. Now, how do you get out of that? It's a slugfest. That's not a conversation most people want to sit in some banker's office and have. I'm just fine there.
You're like you said, you're the guy that's going to represent them in many different ways and fight the battles for them. And you need somebody, because I think the way I look at it, to have somebody like you're not so emotionally attached, but you see things for what they are, and you're not afraid to go talk to the banker, go talk to the creditor, whoever it needs to be.
I'm gonna respond a certain way to that. I am emotionally attached. If you've seen me get into an argument with someone, if I take your case on, I'm not marrying your family, but I'm not going to let somebody stand there and tee off on you. All right. And think that that's going to be okay. It's not okay. Now, I want to keep telling people, is it perfect? No. But I'm very passionate. I look at it from, how do I protect the assets? How do I get this company in a position where the man, lady, family, or even a mid-sized corporation, we'll get into that in a minute if we have time. A mid-sized corporation may need some unique solutions, and I've done those too. But I do get very passionate about it, and I'm the front line. People call me a bully sometimes. They're probably right.
What size projects do you work on, Tim?
It's the biggest thing I've done in recent years, let's say in the last decade, it's 129 million. And that was a defaulted commercial high 5-star hotel. I won't use the location to protect their name, but the contractor had gotten, I did some of the new debt, I believe. Yeah, I did the new debt on it. And the contractor had gotten over budget, $55 million upside down, and drawn in $55 million. All right. And we only had $129 million to work with. So we went in and restructured the debt. All right. The developer had his own legal team, but we were able to put together some mezzanine financing, got the banks back on board, reallocated, got some to put money in, some subordinated, and the resort hotel did open. All right. And is healthy today.
If you can say real quickly, you just threw a term out. I'm not sure what it is, and that's mezzanine financing.
Mezzanine is secondary financing from the senior debt. Very expensive, very hard to get. But I used a term called wedge mezzanine, and people laughed and asked me, what is that? Well, I squeezed it behind the senior debt, which was the banks. And the junior debt was the equity investors, and slipped it in the middle. We needed about $4.5 million, and I did that. So that project did take off again. It did wind up very healthy, and it is a 5-star resort hotel. So
again, you got to look at everything. Look at every detail in those contracts, and you never know what creative financing might be available out there.
Till you get into the transaction, you got to really understand who you're working with, and if you don't understand it, then you get blindsided down the road. I rarely get blindsided. I'm pretty savvy as maneuvering in the middle of a firefight. I've seen as many as 11 lawyers on top of me at one time.
Brent Wallenberg says, President Putin of Russia said the Cold War has not ended. It has just moved from the military realm into the economic realm. Have you ever thought of being a political advisor?
No. I am a debt and equity guy. I'll get into a big fight with people, but I'm more of an idealist. All right. I take things. I did this marina for myself. All right. The investors left in 2015. So it was a group of us at first. Then it became me. Then it became an exit, which it was always intended. But thank you for the kind words, sir. I like to be a champion. All right. I'm a little bit of an ego guy. All right. Anybody that knows me knows that I don't stop. All right. I'm not stupid, though. I know when to get out. So thank you for the kind words, sir.
Let's talk a little bit about 08, 09 and what you see maybe happening right now. And back then there was mortgage-backed securities that we all know mortgages were way higher than what the homes were worth. And that really ended up tanking the economy. We're seeing something a little different today, right?
We're seeing dramatic changes, and it's the same routine. Let me regress real quickly, and I'll keep this short because I want to get to some points that you've brought up. In 08, I was standing in a bar in Meisner Park with a dear friend of mine who is the chief financial officer of a very large bank group. Hey, Jimmy, I hope you're listening. We had no idea how this was going to work because we didn't understand what the collapse, which was backing the collapse. They were mortgage-backed securities that were all phonied up, and they also were the values that were presented to the buyer of those securities, all right, were fraudulent. We are seeing the same exact routine, This is all the same tune, only this time it's with commercial mortgage-backed securities
Instead of residential.
I'm going to simplify this, not because the people that are listening are dumb, not at all. I think you're very bright. I'm not sure. And if people like Jeremy Siegel are talking about, I'm not sure, and here's what might be coming, that's the scary version. What's that mean? It means that the liquidity in the marketplace is going to dry up, and your mortgages on the commercial side, which is my forte, are going to become problematic. Anybody that has a commercial, a mortgage security instrument to finance their business, all you have to do is lose the confidence of the bondholders, and they'll try to foreclose on you. It's very serious. This is a slugfest, all right? And I see it coming very quickly. It's hence why I'm on the show today, all right? We're trying to get the message out. Look, it's coming. We just don't know how big it is.
We don't know how big, and we don't know exactly when. But again, there's so many signs that are out there, especially with COVID. And folks, as you're driving up and down the streets, how many for lease signs do we see in commercial spaces? It's really changed the face of how we used to rent commercial and business spaces, because so many people are working at home or they've went out of business.
I like the idea of repurposing. If you have a property, all right, we have high net worth individuals that will come in and joint venture partner with you and repurpose the property, all right, so that you can hang on to it for the future. It's not just a simple, oh my God, what am I going to do? Let's talk about it, because there may be ways to do this.
Again, we're speaking with Tim Mullen of Commercial Mortgage LLC. He's been in business since 1988. Commercial Mortgage LLC went out on his own in 2003. And, his specialty is debt restructuring. So if you have any issues or you think you might be having something coming up, don't wait till the last minute. Give Tim a call, 561-310-5295. It won't cost you a penny. If he can't help you, he'll be upfront and let you know, I can't help you, but if he can, he'll let you know that as well. And he'll go to bat with you. And again, talk about your charges. It's a point you set or a percentage. It isn't something by the hour that it's out of control. It's either you get them out of trouble, refinance, debt restructured, or you don't.
Right. And that's our forte.
And you work all over the United States. What about a new purchase? Do they have to be in trouble for you to help them?
No. In fact, I think if we're looking at businesses that have some properties that they have equity, there may be some acquisitions of like and similar businesses. Oh, yeah, I love acquisitions and expansion. And, not to be predators, but, if one of your competitors is ready to throw the towel in, all right, then maybe it's time for us to look at them and create that new opportunity during a down economy. Maybe your model's good, but the other one's struggling.
Time for expansion. So you're good at bringing a team together. You can bring people that can fund or that are looking for investments that might be the perfect opportunity to finance.
We have them on
expansion.
speed dial. I get calls every day. It's about business. All right. But again, I said this doesn't get any more personal.
And Brent, thank you again. I'm going to agree with you, Brent. He says, vote for Trump. Getting this country in the black all revolves around energy independence and putting America first. Brent, yes, I agree. We definitely should be striving towards energy independence. Tim, so finally, there was another story I wanted you to go into. There's so many different creative aspects, and it was something about a garden or something up in Staten Island, tomatoes.
Oh, that was hilarious. My partner, Livius Bogdan, and I am going to use his name because I love him dearly. And I had a project in Stuyvesant Place in Richmond Terrace. And we purchased it, and one of the neighbors had been planting tomatoes on the property for like 10 years and selling them on the street corner. But they tried to seize our property under some eminent domain, rules. So I got into the argument with them. This was two high-rise luxury condominium projects right at the base of the Staten Island Ferry. Looking at the statue, it was a spectacular piece of property. So it dawned on me that this guy was planting tomatoes on our property and selling them. And he turned out to be not such a good guy, and his lawyer was less than that. We figured out that he was growing tomatoes and selling them for commerce in an area that was not zoned for agriculture. And that's how I finally broke it. I was just wondering in the middle of depositions, you're illegally growing these things on our property in the middle of a city atmosphere.
And that's what's so funny about so many of these stories. You've got to look creatively at how to overcome these challenges. Let's say here's somebody's claiming eminent domain. It's my property. I've been farming it for years. And you looked at the zoning and said, wait a minute.
You've been fraudulently growing tomatoes on my property for a decade. And so I because I've had a long career, I've had the privilege of working with some of the finest people in business and industry. And I would like to get one off if we have time. It looks like we have a few minutes. Not all of it is down and bloody. All right. I got a call from an international construction company based out of London that heard that I was doing commercial real estate financing in the Caribbean, which I did some. It's very difficult down there. There's no sexy, easy way to do it. I won't use names because I'm not privileged and I don't have permission. So this huge, very, very well-known resort hotel down in the Caribbean was owned by an international construction company, and they wanted to get it off of their balance sheet for bonding purposes. Those bonding purposes, it degraded their bonding ability. They built football stadiums and airports and things like that all over the world. So they had this resort and they want to do a non-recourse loan. Well, that's hard to do. I mean, that's tough. So I went to this island and spent the better part of a week going through all their documents. And I found in a very obscure line item in their operating and management agreement with the flag, which I'm not allowed to say yet, that the flag was going to guarantee the net operating income on the resort hotel. Now, I had been sitting in a meeting with Scotiabank, that I think I can say, and they threw it over their shoulders, said, "Son, you need a cosigner instead of a non-recourse loan." So I found this obscure line in their operating agreement, and I called the flag, flew to their headquarters, and asked the president of the company directly, just looked right at him and says, "Is this what I think it means? NOI guarantee $3.5 million. Yes, that's what that means. Turned around, flew right back to the island, walked into the bank. I said, "I have a cosigner. As a national company, as a cosigner work?" And the guy looked at me and smiled and said, "Yeah, it will." It worked. So we had to write the loan down. They had to put some money in to get it down to a cap rate that made sense. But what I found was sufficient to change to a non-recourse loan. Now, this loan was not in default. These are good credit customers. It was a way to work through revenue. All right. And that's the interesting part of the story. So the resort is doing fine. Everybody's healthy and happy. And my client got off of the guarantee, which allowed them to their bonding ability.
What amazes me with this story is this is a national well-known company who has a team of lawyers, and yet it was you that found that little sentence in there that said the guaranteed NOI of
Funnier than that,
million.
I was sitting at the pool bar when I found it.
Not a bad place to be reviewing documents.
I think I was sitting at the pool bar when it came to mind, and I jumped out like I had springs on my feet and flew straight to their headquarters. And I got a letter that was sufficient for the bank to loan them a 10 cap on $35 million and on a $43 million loan. So my client got the non-recourse loan that he needed.
Again, another creative way to look at things. Sometimes you got to uncover every little leaf, every little stitch to see what might be there to help people. And that's what you do. You look creatively, you think outside the box. And
well, what happens to you in business in a down economy, or and you're taking phone calls all day. You're the owner, the chief or operating officer of a company, and then you have to worry about these kind of problems. All right, I turn the volume down. I don't take 20 clients. All right, I take a few, and then I focus on their problems. The last decade, I have focused strictly on a few transactions. I did the HCD supply. I've done a few others. All right. But at the end of the day, that's what you need. You can't get, sidetracked on the wrong items or dealing with things and come out.
you don't spread yourself thin.
I
And
don't.
you want to win for your client too, because you don't get paid unless they win.
That's right.
Again, this is Tim Mullen with Commercial Mortgage. He does debt workouts, new equity, foreclosure, bankruptcy strategies, areas of expertise, hotels, marinas, office buildings, restaurants, apartments, multifamily units, condos, golf courses, home builders, land development, including new and repurposed developments. That's an interesting one there, land developments. Tell me what exactly projects you're working on there.
Land development is a cyclical asset. What happens is in good times, everybody wants land. All right. Everybody's clamoring for that great piece of property that can build houses and condos and retail centers and blah, 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 blah. But in a retreating economy, nobody has the money to pay the interest reserves as they work through time and pre-development costs. So land development has very unique challenges to it. All right. I'm okay with that. You just got to bear in mind that, you're not going to borrow an 80% loan to value or 75% loan to value on a raw land without cash reserves. However, depending on how you repurpose it, all right, maybe that's the key. I did a piece of property in Chiefland, Florida 20 years ago where the family that owned it couldn't build on it because the property had unstable sand on it. We wound up selling the sand rights to a road builder in Orlando and created new revenue, which allowed them to redevelop the rest of the property.
It's incredible. They're going to sound similar to the California story with the
is.
water. They had an asset that they didn't realize that they had. So,
well, it depends on what you say to me. I remember the banker down in the Caribbean islands said laughingly, "Tim, your boys need a cosigner."
absolutely. And there was another company I think that you told me about before that selling off of the sewer system. There's different things on properties that you don't know what an asset
Oh yeah,
is.
that was what the one that I got him out of the debt. All right, we sold the water and sewer plant and created new revenue. Oh, and we have created electric companies that creates revenue to service, a power generating system that created revenue for the vacant land, which then we borrowed against the revenue to develop the property. Cart before the horse, all right? But you got to rethink these things.
So as we've been talking with Tim Mullen of Commercial Mortgage today, you can tell he has a wide variety of experience. You've worked on a lot of different projects. Something we didn't even talk about was the CDDs.
Community Development District for land development. I've done a $25 million one. They're big. They're interesting.
It's really one of the things that you see when you see new developments going out that need water, streets, electricity, utilities, all that brought in. That's something that you look at as part of the financing.
I do, and they're very common variety of things. Most developers don't know how to use a CDD. I do.
So, folks, if you are looking to restructure your debt, if you're facing some financial difficulty with your business, Tim, you focus on commercial, not personal.
I'm sorry, I don't do mom and dad's house or your grandmother's condo. It's just not my forte. They have unique properties, unique things to it. I'm a commercial guy, hence the name of our company. From the beginning has always been commercial.
Commercial Mortgage LLC. Give Tim a call. He does not charge anything up front, and you're not going to take any client unless you think you can help them.
I'll point you in a different direction if I can't do it. I won't just leave you hanging.
And we've talked about a lot of the different scenarios you've seen over the years, some of the more unique ones, but there's a lot of them that you can help them out, I'm sure, without a lot less headache, but some of them have a lot of headache and others.
Many of them had lots of headache. But all right, I'm fine. I'll take an aspirin. Let's go to work.
So you're not afraid of the long hours?
I am not.
Not a 9-to-5 guy. So 561-310-5295. If you want to find out a little bit more about Tim, you can check out his website, Commercial Mortgage LLC. Don't forget that LLC, commercialmortgagellc.com. And you can contact Tim through the website or on his cell phone, which we've given here. And again, you're looking, let's go out, let's protect people and protect your business and do everything we can. There's so many different avenues to take a person rather than just bankruptcy. Bankruptcy might be the solution, but it might not be.
The answer may not. Thank you for having me on the show today. It's my privilege.
Well, Tim, it certainly is a pleasure to have you on the show, and very interesting. We have such interesting times coming up. Again, there's so much talk in the news right now. I think Vice President Harris, about a month ago or so, said, get your Christmas presents early because they may not be available at Christmas. I mean, they're talking inflation getting so high, and it's crazy. So
I think inflation is one problem. I think this mortgage-backed security is a whole nother problem.
That's something people haven't been talking a lot about, but it's, they talked about saving residential mortgages and passing new laws, but that didn't cover the commercial mortgage-backed security. So, people have, all of a sudden, it's just a little over a decade since the last
Let's
time,
talk
and here they
business
are.
in confidence if you call me, okay? That I can assure you.
Absolutely. Next week, I'm going to have Eric Miller back from Talk About Martin, and we're going to be talking about everything Martin again, so all kind of new topics that always come up. Eric's always a great co-host with me here in the studio, and if you yourself have a topic that you want to have discussed, drop me a line. You can email me, KC.Ingram@mail.com, or message me on Facebook. I'm always open to new shows, but we love to talk about what's happening here in Martin County and beyond, as we did here with Tim Mullen today, who works all over the country. So it could be something locally, and being he is local, it's a great way to get in touch with people. But everything's happening all over. So again, we're going to have Eric Miller with Talk About Martin on next week. The week after that, I'm going to have the superintendent of Martin County Schools back in the studio. We're going to have Superintendent Millay in, and there's been a lot of issues going on here with the schools too. Talk About Martin pointed out that they were having a food shortage. Can you believe that, people? I mean, all these different things keep coming up about the economy. So Dr. Millay will be talking about the COVID protocols and all the great things that are happening with our Martin County School District. He's been on the job for almost a year now, if you can believe it. Time flies.
Wow.
And we'll see then what Dr. Millay has in store. So again, thanks for tuning in. Tim Mullen, Commercial Mortgage LLC.
Thank you.